welcome to FM Thoughts, a podcast about thoughts on Football Manager. I am JMThoughts, and today I am with BigManOnCampus. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Can I call you Chuck?
Yeah, sure. I'm a man, many different nicknames apparently.
I've got many different names. We won't mention the Green Ogre.
Okay, fantastic. That's as long as we do that, I'm A-okay. Let's go on this nice ride then.
So you are once again somebody who's involved in the Football Manager community on Twitch. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what kind of things you get up to?
Yeah, sure. So I play many different games, but FN is the one that really stuck in my crawl. And something I really enjoy a lot playing. I currently have a save going on with Coventry City FC, which we chose on a wheel of fascinating cities that would be nice to see a title in. It was supposed to be a FM challenge in a way that like have as the crown jewel of European football being Coventry, which is just apparently highly ironic, but it wasn't possible. Like it was going to take too long, and I'm glad we didn't do it because we're already at season 9. We haven't won a trophy yet, but we're in the Prem, so that's kind of like yeah, I get it. This is why I just challenging that, but it's been a fun series. And I also play other management games as well as shooters. A few nights ago, I was playing Halo Infinite with Honey Badger and Good Guy, and it was fun. And overall, I like to have fun gaming and enjoy people around me gaming as well. It's a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of variety streamer, but with a healthy chunk of Football Manager in there.
Very, very healthy. I mean, yeah, I'm a variety streamer who streams FM.
Just want to shout out another podcast, which is there is an Unbelievable Streams podcast, and I believe there's an episode of you on there talking about that, which is really interesting. So,
yes,
if you want the full backstory on BigManOnCampus's Football Manager journey with the game and how long you've been playing it, that's a great episode to listen to, and I'll link that in the description.
Yeah, I mean it's props to those guys. They were cool and it was a good time. So yeah, go also see that podcast as well.
You've done a few super long saves in the past, and some shorter ones on stream though.
Yeah, I mean I say that there's two saves that stick out. There's one save that truly stick out. I did Monza in FM21. And that was a decade save. We were in Serie B, and we moved up to Serie A, and in 10 years we won a Champions League. And it was in our first Champions League year too. Like we finally busted through in the Champions League, and then the next year in our first Champions League season we won it, and it was such a fun time. And which also had the irony of like having the grand final in the San Siro. Because at the time when I started with Monza, Silvio Berlusconi was my owner. And if you know your Italian football history, in the early 90s, he owned AC Milan before getting kicked out and him having to end up owning Monza instead. So that's like, he wasn't the owner at the time. It was actually, I forgot what his name was, a guy named Zigic. He was a former Manchester United player, actually. But when the series started, it was Berlusconi. So to finish the series, the whole series, winning a Champions League at San Siro after all of that is kind of one hell of a, just the cherry on top of the great cake that was that series.
Brilliant. Very, very cool. One of the reasons I wanted to bring you on here is not just because of your background of Football Manager, but also kind of what you dabble in the day job. Because is it fair to say you work in the sort of games industry or adjacent to it?
Adjacent to it. So I am the current esports director for Capital Technology University in Laurel, Maryland. It is about 30 minutes away from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. And I've been doing that since February. I've been overall in esports, which is competitive video gaming, since 2017. And it's been a fun experience. I think as a kid, I was really big into, shooters and competitive shooters such as Call of Duty and Halo, but I never thought of it as a job. It was wild to know that all these years later in 2017, I run into Twitch, I run into two esports in a deeper scale that way, and it really jump-started my career to get to where I am right now.
Wow. Well, I don't want you to get in trouble with your employer, but it would be lovely to talk about like what that involves a little bit, and like.
Oh, good. I mean, it's so I look over three teams in, well, three current teams. We have Rocket League, we have Overwatch, we have Call of Duty. We have those three teams that we look over, and we're also building a Valorant team again. We have students that are involved in the program those ways where they could do tryouts to be on the team, or we have an arena as well that we look over where students can come and play any different type of game and enjoy themselves gaming. We also have not just competitive events, but also casual events. And also with this job at Capital Tech, I cannot miss that I'm also a point of contact to our robotics team as well as our cybersecurity team, which is Signal 9. So I'm also the director of competitive activities there too, which would be our robotics and cybersecurity team as well as esports. So I help them out too in getting those things going. And if they need to get into events, I help them get to events and things like that, and want to see them successful too.
Wow, it's a whole world. So is this like university competition? Is that what's going on there?
Yes, university versus university, collegiate esports. We face off against other schools throughout the nation and the region. Teams in Maryland, like Mount St. Mary's, Maryland, Randolph, Macon, and it's in this region where you have your Maryland, where I'm at. You have Washington D.C., which is the district capital, and Virginia as well. We're in a league that has a whole bunch of different schools in the Mid-Atlantic. We also have teams in Delaware that's coming in, as well as Pennsylvania. All these different states throughout this part of the nation, and it's been great so far. I've been big into esports for many years, and be able to turn the passion I had into a career has been awesome.
Wow. So I know America's got that like history of different of a lot of kind of intercollegiate leagues, interuniversity leagues. That's obviously like how a lot of the particularly American football works, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's in its way. It's a whole different bunch of titles that people get themselves involved to, and there's leagues, of course. It's really a lot about tournaments and different tournaments that they really work themselves in. um, for example, we are currently in the National Association of Collegiate Esports, otherwise known as NACE. We are involved with our competitive titles of Rocket League, Call of Duty, Valorant, and Overwatch are involved in leagues that will go against other schools throughout the nation, in which if we make it to a final, we will go on LAN, which is basically going physically to face off with these teams 1v1, and which is exciting. The possibility of that is amazing, and something that we really work for as a team.
And what does that look like for those who aren't really big like understanders of esports? As it begins to develop as an activity, is it I've seen pictures of people where they're playing the games and it's on the big screen and there's a crowd there watching. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
That, and as well as just students really putting time in perfecting a craft that is a certain game. Honestly, it's competitions where they really get the feeling of facing each other in a game that they love to play, and being able to have a chance to win in that said tournament is a amazing opportunity for them. It's something that they really, in a way, work for a long time, and something that they would really put a lot of time into, playing hours on end, but also balancing their other part of their lives, which would be college students, being university students, and also making sure that their grades are good. And we help them out in that sense too, by helping with getting tutoring and working together with study hall. So we be able to focus, still having that balance of being a good gamer, but also being a student that will get the job done, pass the grades, so you get your degrees. At Capital Tech, we have mainly technology degrees, which is computers, engineering, astronautical engineering, unmanned drones, things like that. Cool technology degrees that people are focusing on. And the students are great. They really also want to get those jobs and those careers, but especially with our program, they love the competition of it all. They love the opportunity to be able to be a part of gaming and be involved in that. And now with me coming in, it's a chance for them to see the esports industry and also be a part of that. It's not just being in the competition with me, it's also getting opportunities within the esports industry to talk to different esports personalities, different people, industry people, so hey, they can say, oh, they can open themselves up to a career in esports as well.
Very, very cool. Which leads us on to the question of how do you see esports and Football Manager? Is there an overlap? Is there a potential there?
It's competition, but it's up to the developers to really help balance this game out. I think they have something special in this sense under them, but I don't know if they take advantage of it enough to make it to realize it. And it's a bit frustrating with that, but I think, for example, draft mode, if they could really flesh it out, give it a better server, and really give it a shot as a competitive mode that people get them stepped on and be organic, you never know what happens. But honestly, at the end of the day, developers made it feels like developers made their thoughts of like it's a one-player game with this draft mode here, having fun with, or will network save, which I just been getting into it this year with some great friends, and it's been a great time. My first ever network save, truly. So, but I'm mostly a drafter, and I feel like this year's draft has been kind of the most disappointing, especially with the other years has done so decently. It's kind of disappointing to see that the potential that this has come out to be and not be realized this year.
In some ways, this episode is kind of a nice follow-on from the one with Eloise, where we talked about draft mode and kind of really, really delved into this. And I suppose now we're kind of talking about the potential of draft mode. And there are definitely flaws there. It feels as if it's not prioritized, and maybe it's going to be prioritized. Maybe they're waiting for that new game engine to come into play in 25. But is for you is it a question of the stability and the fairness? Like what makes a video game viable for something that could be a competitive esport?
I think overall it has to have the community. It has to have the feeling of wanting to, that that the skill decides that competition, not the game itself half the time. Like, for example, League of Legends, the biggest competition, the biggest esport game out there right now. It the skill decides a lot of the games. There's still going to be moments where the game's not perfect itself, but it feels like the skill in that game makes the difference in whether you win or lose. When you think about, and oddly enough, an example of maybe something that's not there as an esport, the sports games, especially such as FIFA. FIFA to me is not exactly a true knuckle esport. I think because of the factor of the way that you have to win in that game. It's kind of pay to winish. Well, it is pay to win with their Ultimate Team, and they use Ultimate Team as their esport. Madden is a bit better where they don't really go towards Ultimate Team as an esport, but you have to pay for your cards, you have to pay for your team, and that's the best way you get yourself a chance to win. And I don't think that's how it works in esports in that way. You put yourself out there as skill, not about a team that you bought.
No, that's really interesting. It would suggest that like the level playing field and the lack of microtransactions in FM might put it in a stronger place in some ways.
Yeah, and there is a community for it. We have the FM playoffs. We have Road to Legends. Shout out to Road to Legends. Shout out to Super League. But at the end of the day, too, the game kind of defines what you are. Like the game doesn't get too involved in whether you win or lose. And I think FM, it's gotten better with it, but it's kind of more than ever. It's still in a way more than ever. It's gotten better with it, but at the end of the day, still the game is a bit more of what it's kind of like more on what you are deciding to do. Like they decided for you, and at the end of the day, I don't know if it's going to be a true esport. And I don't know if people really get really stuck to it, but I just think overall the community's great and I have fun with it. And I think that they're fine at the current iteration anyway. And I think that as an esport, it's just not there.
Yeah, and I guess it might not want to be.
Right.
Something that we mentioned when we were talking about this podcast episode was we can talk about the parallels of Football Manager and as an esport and its limitations there. But you also suggested that there might be some parallels with wrestling, with sort of professional wrestling, in the sense that, and that's something which walks that line between sport and entertainment, isn't it? And it leans more towards kind of the entertainment side of thing, while sort of having some of those traits of a sport. So do you want to kind of elaborate on that a little bit as a big wrestling fan?
Yeah, with both, they both can be able to have a chance to tell great stories. For example, like because I'm not a big tactics guy in FM. It's obvious, but I like to give the story of the save. I like to show a story from beginning to end, really talk about how the team developed in its own way, and how much the story of the save is just it's compelling to people. Kind of what Zealand does. He does a great job with like giving the story of Dotton and making this team, making this team count and making feeling like they are a part of something special. And I would like to get towards that level where we are telling a story of the team. And that's the same thing with wrestling. You still tell a story of two wrestlers that are fighting against each other, and from beginning to end, whether it's for a title, whether it's a grudge match, whether it's over different things in what they want in their lives, it's really about coming together as a team. It's kind of about coming together and looking for their goals and seeing what's in their ways, and how to take those obstacles out to be number one. To be the best. Shout out to Pokemon. But all overall, I love a good story, and wrestling really gives it to me, as well as FM. And I love the opportunity of like shaping those stories in FM and seeing how they really go out towards the people, and how they can really get themselves invested to it, how they really put their much backing into it. And it's similar with wrestling, like the bloodline storyline between Roman Reigns, the Usos, and Sami Zayn, which is right now the story in wrestling, is about family, and how much family can decide a lot of things within their lives, and how compelling that is, and relatable in a way. How family can really push you, but also stop you in what you want to do, and that just overall is a great story.
Do you see those storylines in single player? Do you see them in the draft community?
Both. Single player, when you when you get a team, whether you created it or just have a team overall and moving themselves up in lives, or in draft mode where a tournament goes down, and when you create that story of the tournament, what players you get and what you face, and the adversity you have over the time in the tournament, it's really also a story behind that too. So it's, in a way, FM really gives you a chance to really build a story for yourself throughout your time.
Yeah, I certainly see myself as a storyteller. When I'm playing on Twitch, I feel like it's half I'm just hosting a space for people to hang out in, and it's half like telling the journey of the save. And in some ways, I wouldn't say I'm not interested in realism per se,
Mm-hmm.
but like with the episode of this podcast where I talked with Alice, like we're looking for volatility, for interesting things, for storylines there. And this is probably something to explore in another episode but of this podcast. But like I used the editor to, on a couple of occasions, like particularly to take a team called Chicken Wings and give them a sugar daddy to let them go up the leagues, because it was a food journeyman save, and a team called Chicken Wings getting to the top of the Finnish league was part of that story, right? Like it was messing with the game world in an artificial way, but it was, I guess, kind of like wrestling. It was setting up something interesting that we can then go and check in on. And I do see some people playing the game in a really sort of serious way, and kind of with a lot of integrity, and they make sure they stream every moment of it so that everybody knows they're not cheating. And then you see other people at the other end who are, there's not many of them, but like some people who will be quite open of like, you know what, I reloaded and played that match again, or I used the editor to get rid of this person's injury or whatever, because they're on the other end of the scale and they're like, we're just having fun and we're just doing some silly stuff.
Yeah.
I guess there's kind of lots of different angles to that, isn't there?
Oh yeah. And I believe that, as long as you're enjoying it and really not, putting it like really not, as long as you're enjoying yourself and, not putting out there what could be is. So honestly, it's really just saying, hey, you're having fun with a series, you're having fun with a save. Like, again, a lot of respect to your save, with you're creating a menu basically out of FM teams. And hey, you found a way to connect food and a lot of things that were pretty cool that people don't know. And that's basically also in a way informative and really understanding of what a club is. So props to you, Mr. Thoughts, and what you're doing with your saves and what unique ability too. And I don't know if you've seen in chat in the Discord, one of the Discords, I seen what happened with Hamburg when you left. Shout out to Alice, FM girl, DJ Alice, but you fixed Hamburg better than she did. So
we'll rub that one in, but yeah, we left Hamburg and they went on and won the Bundesliga. Alice's save about fixing Hamburg, and they're looking wobbly, but I won't rub that in. I don't want to pick a fight with Alice. I mean, there's almost like a tension there a little bit between. Maybe this can be covered in the different types of football manager. Your solo player, your network saves, and your draft mode. There's a sort of flexibility, there's a kind of mad side of Football Manager that people maybe play. Obviously if you're in control of your own save, you can play that a little bit. What I talked about with Eloise was the FM World Heavyweight Championship with the just absolutely bonkers draft rules, and really leaning into that kind of, we know this game isn't fair and it's kind of crazy and we're just going to do crazy stuff and have a good time. And I really respect people like you because of the way that you have this kind of charisma and showmanship on stream and kind of really playing into that. But then that other side of you sort of saying, well, if it wants to be more serious and maybe like go more in an esports direction, it needs to be more of a level playing field, more fairer, more refined. Is that a conflict? Is it a one or the other? How do you see that moving forward?
It doesn't need to be a conflict. Esports in itself, for example, Call of Duty, it's refined. It does have, like, the basis of this is refined. I mean, the current Call of Duty iterations kind of annoy me, but in a sense that it is at least a level playing field in a way, besides certain cheaters. But in a LAN event, it is a level playing field, and you go from there. And there's a story beyond towards that, whether you're first in a tournament and you make a deep run and things like that, or you've been in that tournament for years and you dominate it and you want to keep dominating again and again. So it can be both. There's a story to be made in some esports, and in some esports in that sense. Like, some of my favorite storylines is like we'll go back to Call of Duty is Optic Gaming, and the story of them going to their first ever world championship in 2017. Winning that title, for years, when they housed one of the greatest Call of Duty players of all time, and then created one of the greatest Call of Duty teams of all time, just to win in 2017. And that team was Scump, Karma, Formal, Crim 6, otherwise called the Optic Dynasty. And when they came up short in Black Ops 3 in 2016, the feeling of dejection of them losing to Cloud9 and the early in the lower bracket quarterfinals at the very end really was implemented there. And for it to almost end at a certain tournament, it was MLG Dallas, where Karma, who I modded, the first people I modded for on Twitch, did a 1v1 against Fastballer, another player, at the very end in a search and destroy, to win that game and help towards cementing that dynasty for the rest of the year, which they end up winning a lot of tournaments and winning that world championship, which makes you a legend in that esport. And to get Scump that first and only world title is that story was so compelling in its right. And it was such an emotional moment when they finally won it over Envy, which, it was one of the few times I kind of gotten a tear in my eye for seeing that happen, because I was so invested into that team in many different ways. So yeah, storyline is there within esports that is fun, and there's trash talk, and there's and there's upsets and things like that. That can make that fun in its own right. So you can still have both.
And you see that with some of, I suppose, to a much smaller degree, but with some of the draft tournaments, the draft ranking that's now developed in the competitive Football Manager scene, with different people, stake bake, trying to chase down that top ranking and winning the different tournaments, or these redemption arcs with the streamer showdown. When Zealand won it and then won it a second time, or Kev winning it, Dr. Benji never winning it. You can kind of see that emergent sort of side of it, where even with what we have now in Football Manager, there was a sense of it. I felt like there was enough of a sort of competition there. It wasn't all based around kind of luck and flawed, that you could get those kind of champions, those stories of people rising to power, challenging, falling, all of that that I guess makes maybe like any sport compelling, really.
Exactly. I go into mind that competition in itself is just another form of entertainment. It's, especially when you're talking about professional competition, seeing the best people at what their craft is, whether it's sports, whether it's esports, whether it's even a crafting contest of woodworking. Like, it's seeing the best at what they do that best thing, making those challenges, and seeing who comes out on top is kind of just that another form of entertainment. And I think in a way we were kind of, I would say not fooled, but like they kind of gave a mirage of people saying that it's its own different type of thing. Like, honestly, it's competition. We're getting entertained by people doing the best that they do and being the best at it. So it's just at the raw form of it, another form of entertainment.
Yeah, sport, woodworking, esports. It's cool. Yeah. Where it feels to me as if this side of Football Manager has kind of suddenly rapidly accelerated in the last few years, and you've kind of alluded to maybe like the game itself not keeping up or not prioritizing that. What would you like to see from future Football Managers?
A director of football mode.
Okay, it's out of left field, but go for it.
I want a director of football mode. I think you can definitely put more. You have a lot of the great things of a director of football mode set up, besides of starting the game as a director of football. Clates has done such a cool series on being a director of football. He had to do so many hoops and get towards that, but it's fun to watch. It's cool to see, and I think like you should be able to have an opportunity to make that simpler for yourself to be a director of football yourself. And that's a missed opportunity there to add more of a storyline, to like be the guy that built a team that gotten the coach together to win. And you get to see the highlights yourself and things like that. It's kind of similar. It's kind of one of the things that are cool that is similar to Out of the Park Baseball, which is another sports management game in the way of baseball. They don't just have you as the coach picking the players and things like that, but you can make that happen as a GM, where you're just scouting, picking the players, hiring the coaches and everything around you as well, and hiring the manager overall. And the manager to make those decisions, and you see the highlights of it and see how those decisions you made go out through those managers, and how do they make the team better or worse. I think a director of football adds another great storyline to it, and it's still in a way football managing. It's just you're managing the manager as well.
Yeah,
I know that was out of left field. I get it. That was out of nowhere, but I would love a director of football mode to add on to it.
No, I hear you, and I think as director of football's become, if you look at a manager like Alex Ferguson, they were in charge of everything, and that's kind of where maybe like that's how a lot of Football Manager players like to play the game. As we get director of footballs and club DNA and all of this stuff coming in, it is kind of artificial that you are the manager of the team and you appoint a director of football, but you don't let him do signings, you tell him what to do, like you basically you're doing his job as well. So that's kind of, yeah, it's an interesting thought. I wonder whether Miles will ever relent on his we'll never do that he's tweeted many times. It's kind of similar to what you're doing, though, I suppose, with putting together the esports teams and stuff. So I can see maybe why that appeals to you personally as well.
Yeah, that also appeals in a way. I mean, when I was a kid, I would, play Madden and play those franchise modes, as well as NBA 2K and My GM, where you had the whole team, you hire the coaches and things like that that make that happen. That also comes into play when I think about that. Um, so that does you're right. It does do that, but I still think, especially if you look up Clayton's DOF for what he does with Football Manager, yeah, honestly, that's where you know where it also comes from, and how cool that series has been. Where he started in Spurs and went to Almeria, and how that went down. So yeah.
Well, thank you for spending time talking to us about all these fascinating things. Where can people find you if they want to watch some Big Man on Campus content?
BigManOnCampus88 on Twitch. We have a Discord as well, but the link is in my Twitter at a BigManOnCampus, the letter A. And it'll give the link tree to all different things. We will continue with Coventry, but we also play different games as well, and it's been fun.
It's been real fun, and because of the old time zones, you're often on at a good time. A bit of a late night stream, a bit of late night fun.
I'm for the most part late night guy, but I can also do early mornings. Right now, my times is all over the place.
He can be whatever you want him to be.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and hopefully I'll talk to you again soon. And yeah, really, really great.
Yeah, no. Thank you for giving me time to talk.
So there we have the end of the podcast, and what a really interesting conversation with a really interesting chap. Big Man on Campus is just a super generous guy with just depth of interest and background, and he's always got a lot of love to give, so a real pleasure to speak to him and hear some of his thoughts. Also worth saying, seeing as we mentioned WWE on the podcast, it feels remiss not to mention the sad news that's less than 24 hours old as I'm editing this, which is that Bray Wyatt, full name Wyndham Rotunda, unfortunately passed away. And I don't know a lot about wrestling, but I know that is way too young, and a lot of people are hurting. So thoughts with his family, obviously, on that one. And also on another serious note, thank you to Big Man on Campus for squeezing me in. I think he got up just before his workday to have this interview. We're very thankful to him for doing that. And thankful to you for listening. Thank you for listening to another episode of FM Thoughts. We are slowly approaching episode 10. It's very exciting. And I'm really glad that people are enjoying it, that are listening to it, and your support just by listening and sharing means an awful lot. So thank you very much. We will be back soon with another episode of FM Thoughts, and until then, go well, friends.